This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Welcome to Learn from Others. This is Greg Stanley, and I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, Heather Johnson. Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, and thank you for taking us on your career journey. But before we find out what you're doing today, let's start at the very beginning, and can you tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, it kind of depends if you're talking really young or a little bit older. So when I was in grade school, I really wanted to be an artist or a photographer, and it didn't take me very long to know that I wasn't that creative when it came to either of those fields. And
wait. We got to look at that. What do you mean it didn't take long? Were you like, you took a picture and your thumb was in the picture, or you did a drawing and it didn't look like a dog?
Like nothing that I took a picture of like translated into the amazing picture I had in my head, and nothing that I drew looked like what it should have in my mind. So I kind of knew pretty early on that would be more of a hobby than anything. And then in high school, I actually really wanted to go into forensics. And this was way before CSI was TV show. But yes, I was fascinated by the idea of like solving mysteries.
Wow. So a couple things. You were really harsh on yourself as a little kid. First off, I'm like, right? Wow, a little 5-year-old crushing your own dreams there. Jeez.
Right. Who knows what could have happened had I only just given myself a chance.
Okay. Now the forensics, that's pretty interesting. Was there anything in particular that drew you to it, or was it uncovering a mystery, or where did you even pick that up? Because like you said, there's no shows on back then that people knew what that was.
You know, I think it was just like in biology classes or reading, like, you know, there was this team, this really cool team of people solving mysteries of like how somebody got murdered. And I just thought that was really interesting. I like that. I was a huge fan of biology and the sciences, and it just seemed really cool and challenging. So yeah, I don't know. And then it became really popular. I'm like, oh, I obviously can't do that.
I think they glamorize it just a little bit. So
maybe.
Right. In
solving a mystery in an hour, yeah.
Right. In high school, in biology class, when you had to dissect the frog, did you not dissect it? Did you try to figure out who did it, that kind of thing?
Right. The dragonfly did it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I was that person that would do the extra credit. So if you had to dissect a frog or a pig, I would be the one staying after school to like go into the brain, and
Wow.
That was me. Yeah, I know. Kind of dark.
Well, what was your first job? And that could either be, you know, one you got paid cash for or an actual real job.
Okay, so my first job in high school was at Baskin-Robbins. So I was an ice cream scooper, and my older sister, was already working there. And so I remember distinctly going in, picking up an application while she was working. She kind of sat me down at the table, and I started filling this out, and she like took the application from me, and she's like, I'm going to help you. And I remember her writing something down to be a fact of, I really like to mop and sweep on my application. And I got the job.
Well, you need a mopper and a sweeper in an ice cream store. So
I know. Yeah, so that was my first of many food service jobs as a high schooler.
So what was the best flavor? I don't even know at Baskin-Robbins.
Oh, well, see, that's like asking somebody to look inside their soul. So I was a huge butter pecan fan, but you could totally be a mint person, and I can't hate you for that.
Right. Well, what was your favorite subject or hobby in school? Was it the biology, or was it something else?
It was. I loved biology class, really anything and everything. Not chemistry. You're either a biology person or a chemistry person. I was far from a chemistry person. So I loved all the biology classes, especially the ones you could dissect.
So
read into that what you may.
Right, right. So your first job was working at Baskin Robbins, but you really like the forensics
Yeah.
and biology. So tell us what you do today.
So I actually sell Oreo cookies I'm actually a salesperson, and I work with one of the largest convenience store retailers for Mondelez.
So Mondelez, for those who don't know, is the merging of Cadbury and Nabisco.
Yes. Yeah. So I can tell people I sell cookies and candy every day.
So that sounds like just the best job in the world.
It is pretty cool. I have to say, my kids really think I'm amazing when, packages of candy shows up at our doorstep out of nowhere. But yeah, it's a pretty cool job.
So take us how you got there. Like, take us through your education and then maybe like your first job out of college and the consecutive jobs that led you to where you are today.
I went to college at the University of Missouri in Columbia, studying, not surprisingly, biology. So again, I was set on going into forensics, doing, research. I had a very focused one-track career goal. And I will say my parents took me aside, I'll say like probably my late freshman year, sophomore, when they realized I wasn't changing my mind about the sciences. They asked or kind of pleaded with me to pick up some business courses. They were, at the heart of it, every parent's trying to look out for their kid, making sure they're helping them set up for success. And I think at the heart of it, they were just worried that it's really hard to get a job in research or biology, forensics, whatever. And they wanted to kind of at least provide me another option that could help broaden my options after school.
Okay, yeah, those are wise parents. All right, so you're still on the forensic biology path at this point.
Yes. So I agreed, and I guess the most surprising thing is I really liked the business courses. So here I was taking all these biology, chemistry classes, math, etc., and then I start picking up like a marketing course or a business management course, and I found them absolutely fascinating. Like, it was totally, the people were different, the interaction was different. What I was learning was like on the total opposite side of my brain from what I was doing in biology, and I totally fell in love with it. It kind of like stimulated something that in me that hadn't been there before. So I actually really liked it, and so I decided to end up dual majoring with biology and also business on the other side.
Wow,
so,
that's not a combination you hear frequently.
Not at all. To this day, I have thanked my parents many times, because I definitely would not be where I am today had I just, stood firm. So I ended up going through school with both of those majors. I ended up getting an internship. So everybody talks about how important an internship is before you graduate. I interned with State Farm Insurance, of all, places, the summer before my senior year. And it was like I moved for this internship, like I moved to St. Louis for the summer, and it was one of those things that it was, you can basically create what your project is going to be, and it opened me up not only to what business actually means, like when you're in college, you have no idea what being in the business world is, so it gave me this really amazing experience, and I also was very interested and excited about the project I created, and it turned into something that was important to State Farm at the time in terms of how they trained and retained the people that worked in their insurance offices. So I don't know, it totally took me for like a pivoted completely that summer. And so I finished up school, and right after I graduated, I started at General Mills up in Minnesota, and that was my first job out of college.
Wow. So it's basically you took on this project as an intern, saw it come to fruition in an impactful way, and that just totally did a 180 on your career path, didn't it?
It totally did. People talk about the importance of internships as one thing, but you also know the importance of networking, which is a whole other thing that isn't just important when you're in school looking for a job, but when you're out of school in the business world or any career field, how important networking is. And one of the VPs I worked with at State Farm happened to know the person, the interviewer from General Mills, and it was like, that was my first experience of, oh my gosh, this is what networking is. Like, somebody knows somebody, and you make that connection. And I think that really helped me get into this role at General Mills right out of school.
And that's something that's come up consistently, is having a mentor, whether it's formal or informal, and then the networking aspect of it. That's great that you're able to figure those out fairly early. What did you do at General Mills?
I did, it was a lot of like internal sales roles. It was your very entry-level internal sales, like business development. And I actually worked within convenience, vending, specialty. So back then it was the Home Depots of the world, Best Buy, trying to get General Mills products into these retailers. So I was more of the support, part of the support team for the salespeople.
So is that where you would kind of give the person who's going to sell the product cereal, I would assume?
Yeah, so I was like more of the analytics person. I helped develop price lists back when you had to put price lists into like Excel templates.
Whoa, what's Excel? Right.
Yeah, right. Like, it's old school, but yeah, it helps me kind of get my very basic understanding of what a manufacturer does, what is a distributor, and how do our products get from one place to the next in a very different channel. It's not convenience and vending machines act very differently than a grocery store, for example.
Right, because you have more of a middleman or multiple middle companies to handle the product as it gets to those different areas of the country.
Exactly. So I stayed with General Mills in various roles for several years, and then I had the opportunity to go into over-the-counter healthcare. So I worked for 2 different pharmaceutical companies, and in those roles, it was really what used to be called category management, and it kind of evolved into shopper insights. But at the heart of it, it was really doing research in the store setting to understand how do shoppers shop, why do they make the purchases they do, and how can we think about that information in a way that we could make a store a better experience for them to buy our products, to put more products in their basket, like really getting more into my biology background of more of that researching consumers while they're at stores.
Right. I can see that feeding into your forensic mind, trying to figure it out, dig into the data, get some trends out of the data, come up with a suggestion as far as what where could we place the product, where it may sell better or whatever.
Exactly. Like, would it sell better on the top shelf or the bottom shelf? What if you put it on the left side versus the right side? What if you put like these products together? What if you it's so fascinating. Like, one move on a shelf can mean the difference of somebody buying something versus not buying something, and understanding what is it about that move that translated into them walking away and buying it at a totally different store. Like, it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, why don't we put a vanilla wafer rack in the produce department near the bananas and put some vanilla pudding on top, and maybe they'll buy it and make pudding. And
exactly.
By Jove, they did. So.
Exactly right. So I did Shopper Insight for many years, and it got to the point where I didn't feel challenged. Like, I was teaching more than I was learning myself, and I really like a good challenge. I like to push myself beyond my limits and make myself grow in uncomfortable ways. And many people had given me the advice that you should be a salesperson. It was professional and personal advice. Like, if you want a challenge, go into sales, or you really won't understand the full picture in this company until you hold the bag. I can't even count the number of times people have told me, you got to hold the bag, Heather, you got to hold the bag.
Define that for our listeners, because
it means being a salesperson. Like,
and holding the bag is carrying your briefcase in there with all your sales documents and your selling pitch and everything else, correct?
Yep. It's owning that business. So what I did is I took on that challenge, and I have to say it wasn't that easy finding a job or transitioning into a sales job without sales experience. I got a lot of, you seem great, but I'm a little concerned that you have no sales experience. And then I can't even count how many interviews I did for sales jobs, but I came to one vice president that took a chance with me. And I will always remember that person who looked beyond that resume of shopper insights and category management and said, oh, yeah, you could totally do this job. And that was it. So that was 6 years ago. And I've been in sales ever since. And I absolutely love it. I totally caught the sales bug.
So that is a big change from where you originally thought you would end up in your career, over a dead body trying to figure out who did it, right? Maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. To selling cookies and candy.
I think my family probably on a pretty frequent basis is amazed when they look at me. Like, I don't think anybody would have pegged me to be a salesperson for a big consumer packaged goods company. But, yeah, I love it.
I think that's a great thing to keep an eye out on, because if you're going on your career path and you're not necessarily happy, you got to keep your eyes open for other opportunities. Or if you are happy, see what the opportunities are. And you never know where they may lead you.
I mean, seriously, you never know. Because I would have never got sitting in a biology class back in college. I would have never thought this is where I would have ended up and where I would be happy and challenged. So, yeah, you just never know.
Well, cool. Well, before we move on to our next question, let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Do you enjoy your job and find it fulfilling? Or do you spend more time wondering what if instead of what's next? If so, contact Career Spa. Career Spa has extensive programs and curriculum and understands the challenges faced by individuals in transition. They can teach these success practices to be mastered for an effective job search. Answer that what if question by contacting Career Spa and asking their experts, what's next? Contact Career Spa at careerspa.net. Talent acquisition is key to building a successful organization. Talent Connections is a professional services firm that specializes in recruiting, including executive search, contract recruiting, talent acquisition consulting, and recruitment process outsourcing. Whether you are an individual or a Fortune 100 company, Talent Connections can connect you with success. Contact them at talentconnections.net. Well, welcome back. We just learned what you wanted to be when you grew up and what you actually do today. So if you could do it all over again, and this seems like it might be a trick question considering your career path, what would you do differently?
I don't think I would change anything. I know it's weird to say since I'm in a completely different place than where I set out to be, but I really do like what I do.
Well, that's a great place to be and a great place to realize, you recognize that, it just feels great.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, let's make the assumption that someone in our audience wants to do what you do. What advice would you give them? Is there a typical career path you would suggest they follow? Because obviously yours was not the typical career path.
Right.
Is there one, or what advice would you give them?
My first thing would be, I don't think it necessarily matters what major you're doing. Like if you're in college, I don't actually think it matters what major you are, because I think there is a whole plethora of things you can study that you could apply to be where I am today. At the heart of being a salesperson, you need to be able to develop relationships. You need to be able to negotiate. You need to be able to really talk to people, understand, listen. I mean, these aren't things that you're going to learn in a communications 101 class necessarily, but it's something that you can learn to be good at just out in the real world. So most of all, I would say internship. I would highly recommend getting an internship in school to start feeling out if this is a path that you would want to take. And I would also talk to people that are in this field and kind of understand what is the day in the life of, and see if you could shadow them. a day, a couple of days to really understand, is this something that could interest you?
No, that's great advice. Great advice. Well, and as with most journeys, success largely depends on reliable transportation. And since you know I'm a huge car enthusiast, would you tell us, what was your first car?
Okay, it was a total hoopty. I can say that with
Did you say
honesty.
hoopty?
It was a total hoopty.
Okay.
It was a 1989 Grand Am, which was a great car, but it had been passed through both of my older sisters by the time I got it. And it was spray painted. The color was spray paint. And the ceiling of my car had come unglued. So it had that, like, parachute bubble effect as I drove down the highway with my windows down. So it was a true hoopty.
Wow. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. I think I had one of those in driver's ed back in the day. Well, what is your dream car, if you have one?
I don't know if I have a dream car. I have cars that I like. Like, when I'm driving down the road, I really like the old VWs and old Jeep Cherokees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I had, like, all the money in the world, if I would get one of those cars, but those are the ones that I love the most.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Both of those are really cool. One great perk to some companies is having a company car. So if I had all the money in the world, I'd like to buy you a really cool company car. And the car I picked for you, this is different. It's not a VW or a Jeep, but it is a 1955 Imperial Southampton. So
oh my gosh.
I know you never heard of that, but let me give you a
No. That's true.
Here's what the car is. It used to be called the Chrysler Imperial. Well, Chrysler decided we need to compete with Cadillac, so we're going to come out with our high-end brand. So they dropped the Chrysler, called it Imperial, and it was that way for like 15 years or so, and then they just kind of killed the car. But really cool car. Well, you live in Texas. It's hot.
Mm-hmm.
There's big freeways. This was the first car that really had good AC, a 1955 Imperial. AC actually came out like in the 30s, but this was one of the few that really had a nice AC going on. And it was meant for the highway. It was very, very nice. It was extremely well built. It was so well built that in the 70s, it was banned from demolition derbies because they couldn't kill it. That's how well built this car was. So,
you know, that is kind of like me.
Well, that's true. That's true. So it's meant for the highways. It has a smooth suspension called the Torsion Air, which was some marketing catchphrase back then. And one thing that was really cool, now this is on the later Imperials. This was not on the one I picked for you. The later Imperials are a little ugly. So I chose a 55 because it's a really cool looking car. I'll send you some pictures and everything. But the later cars actually had power seats and door locks and cruise control. And the seat would swivel, so when you open the door, the seat would swivel so you could get into it easily. So,
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So that's not on yours, but yours is the prettier version of it. So that's the car I would pick as your cool company car if I had all the money in the world.
Okay, I'll take it.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on your journey today. What's the best way our listeners can learn more about you or your company?
I am out on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. Okay. Heather Johnson.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Heather.
Thank you, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.